Hey everyone, we're here today to talk about high dynamic range video. HDR has been around for a few years now, but recently it's become much more accessible for content creators, video producers, and entry-level filmmakers to dip their toes into thanks to a wider spread of on-camera monitors to preview HDR, computer monitors to help grade HDR, and devices such as OLED TVs to enjoy HDR. Now, HDR is something of a complicated topic to get into, especially because it's one of those things you can't really appreciate until you actually see it with your own two eyes. So this two-part series will first cover shooting and monitoring HDR on set, where I'll talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of using it, along with a basic explanation of HDR formats. Part 2 will then cover grading and delivering HDR video in post with a deeper explanation of the formats, standards, and workflows, along with some creative approaches to grading HDR. Both parts will have their share of technical details, but we'll try to keep it approachable. So what is HDR video anyway? First off, it's not at all the same thing as those so-called HDR photos that have come and gone over the years, made from multiple exposures. HDR video is not so much how you capture something, but how you display it. HDR video is a way of viewing video across a monitor's entire brightness range. Traditional SDR, or standard dynamic range video, is what you would call relative. If you brighten up your screen, the entire video becomes brighter with it. And the opposite happens if you darken your screen. We're going to talk a lot about what that means throughout this video, so keep that in mind. HDR video, on the other hand, at least the one we're going to look at today, is absolute. And what that means is that your video is in a way defined by the maximum possible brightness of the screen. A brighter screen won't make your overall video brighter, it just means that the brightest portions of the video can get brighter. Dark regions of the video can be almost completely black. Think things like direct light sources, a shimmer on the water, light beaming through trees or flames. This is difficult to understand without actually seeing it, and especially without adjusting it in person, either through camera exposure or in the grade, but I'll try my best. Now, this has some advantages and disadvantages that we're going to talk about, but for now, let's just talk about what HDR options there are. There are in fact several HDR formats, but the two primary standards are HLG, which stands for Hybrid Log Gamma, and HDR10. There are a few others, such as Dolby Vision and HDR10+, but we're only going to talk about the first two, and for the sake of the demo, we're only really going to focus on HDR10. Now, if you've shot in any log format before on a camera, understanding HDR formats should be a little easier for you. And if you've never shot with these formats, I highly recommend our video on 8-bit versus 10-bit video, which does explain a little bit on how log modes work without getting too technical. So HLG is a backwards compatible form of HDR that's intended more for shooting HDR straight out of camera or delivering it in a live situation where you can't really take full advantage of grading separate HDR or SDR versions. It can be viewed on either an SDR or HDR screen, but it doesn't really take full advantage of the format. It is actually a relative form of HDR, meaning you can brighten your screen up and accurately view it in any environment. Without getting too deep into it, Gamma is the method by which SDR displays, that is regular monitors, show video and essentially define their contrast. That's a huge oversimplification, I know, but if you've ever seen what adjusting your gamma does on a monitor, you can kind of understand how it impacts the image. People have made some incredibly long videos exploring this concept in depth for years now, so I'm going to use very simple examples here to get the point across at a high level. The first half of the image uses a traditional gamma curve to display correctly on an SDR screen. But the upper half uses a log curve, which means it can hold additional highlight information that an HDR set can use to display those bright highlights you often want. This means, however, that you can't completely maximize your contrast on an SDR set, since some of that upper information is effectively compressed the way that a log image would be, and the HDR set isn't going to get that same kind of highlight separation and pop that you could from a dedicated HDR grade. Still, it can look nice for live broadcasts such as sports or concerts. Now, HDR10 is the more common HDR format, and it's not something you shoot in per se, it's something you grade, monitor, and deliver. This is where it gets a little tricky, so I'll save the full details for part 2. We're going to focus more on shooting and exposure here. But anyway, HDR10 uses a standard known as ST2084 or Rec 2100. They're synonymous. And they define precisely how video is shown at every brightness value of a display. Because of how bright screens can get these days, it's not that the overall HDR image is brighter, but it lets you spread the dynamic range that the camera can record over a wider, brighter video range. It also usually is paired with a wider color gamut, and you might have heard of this one. It goes by the name Rec 2020. Rec 2020 is not HDR on its own. It is only the wider color gamut, but there is some conflation of the terms out there, especially on some hardware devices. So typically in any camera, you expose the image around the idea of middle gray, which depending on your camera could sit anywhere between 39 to 42 IRE or so. And if you don't know what this means, I recommend you watch our video on how to use camera monitors. The point is, middle gray exists anywhere you want it to be. You can go outside and set up your camera exposure and lights to hit it, and we know that there is also a 0 and 100 IRE as well, which, to keep it simple, means that you've lost the image once you go past those points. This whole scale of 0 to 100 is relative, so it doesn't matter how bright or dark your screen is, it just needs to be the right brightness for your environment. If your image is 100 IRE, making it totally white, your screen isn't necessarily going to blind you if your brightness is at an appropriate level. Think about when you go outside with your phone and you have to crank the brightness up to see even a pure white image under direct sunlight. Now hold on to that thought for a minute. HDR10 instead says, let's actually set how bright the screen itself needs to be in order to show the image. And that could mean that if you're looking at something dark like a shadow, that the display will barely turn on, while a tiny light bulb, or let's say the sign behind me, is actually as bright as the monitor could possibly get. This poses a lot of challenges, but the results can look really nice in the right conditions. I mentioned log color before. HDR10 is technically sent in the form of a log image. If you view it on a regular screen, it will look gray and flat like a log image from a camera. But this format is called PQ, or perceptual quantizer. That perceptual part is especially important to understanding how the image is actually displayed, but we'll talk more about that in part 2. For now, let me just show you what it means to monitor in HDR. So we're out here on another shoot today, and this is kind of an interesting situation for HDR. We are not monitoring HDR today, and for good reason. I'm going to show you in just a second. This is actually not the worst condition because it happens to be cloudy, so it's a little more forgiving, but it's still outside, and that means it's really tricky. Not impossible, but really tricky and almost disadvantageous to monitor in HDR. And let me show you what that means. So right here, we have an Atomos Shogun showing the raw log image coming off of this Canon C80. On the screen here, we have a LUT preview. This is just the standard CMT709 LUT that's on the C80, so this is not something custom. However, I did load that LUT as well into here for comparison in just a moment. Now, what you're seeing is the original, and this is kind of showing you everything that is coming right off the sensor. But let's switch over to PQ, which is the HDR mode. And now you can see there is some added contrast, there is more color, it's really popping compared to what it was, but it's pretty dark, right? Now, you might think, okay, let's just brighten up the monitor. This can get up to supposedly 3,000 nits of peak brightness, so why not use that? We are outside, that's what these monitors are for, right? Well, not quite. So the thing is, as I've mentioned before, PQ, HDR is an absolute form of video display. So that means that it is supposed to be displayed at a certain brightness level. Regions of the screen are supposed to be at a certain brightness level. So the sky up here is quite bright, everything down here is quite dark. Now, I'll just show you what happens in display here in PQ mode. I can't actually adjust the backlight. It's impossible because it's fixed. This is a case where you're going to want to use SDR because it's relative. So if I go back to monitor, I'm not going to use Rec 709 here because that's the built-in one. I actually want to match what we have here. Like I said, I loaded the LUT from here onto the Shogun, so I'm going to go over to LUT. And now we have a view that kind of approximates what we have straight out of the camera here, or at least on the LCD screen. Now this has way more punch, way more saturation. We do get some of the bloomier highlights that we would expect when it's put through a LUT, but it's definitely something that you can gauge much more faithfully by eye if you had to. Now going over to display again, we are only at 32% of the backlight. So if I wanted to, I could crank this all the way to 100%. And now I have a much easier image to look at. I can gauge this. Obviously, you still want to use the waveform monitors here. They're pretty low in my opinion,
So that means we have a lot of latitude left to play with. And that brings me to the next point, which is that even in HDR, your exposures do not change. Your rules of exposing do not change. Everything is still the same. So technically, the dynamic range you have from the camera, the sensor itself, doesn't change. The lighting ratios you want to use do not change. If it's blown out in the camera, it's still going to blow out in HDR or SDR. So I can prove that to you. Right now, of course, we don't really have anything. There's a little bit up here that's clipping in the waveform monitor. That is presumably the sky at the very top here. But let's just say, let's see here, we're at a T4. Let's just open this up. Let's bring this up all the way. Now we have a few things that are up there. It's still not the worst. I'm actually going to turn off the ND a little bit. Let's lower that. Let's take out, yeah, okay, there we go. So now I'm going to roll on this just so you can see. So now that we're actually recording this, you can see that this is clipped at the camera level. If I were to bring this down, let's say I just close the iris, you can see it coming down on the waveform monitor and in the screen. Now, if I go over to HDR, this is where it can get confusing, and it's why it's not really advantageous to actually use it in a situation like this. Let's go back to HDR. Monitor, EQ. So now this looks really nice, actually. Now it happens to work here because I think we're in a nice middle area. If I wanted to convert this later on, it might be a little bright for SDR. I think it wouldn't really render faithfully. If you want to render faithfully, it looks fine here, but I guarantee you this is going to render a little too bright. If you want something more cinematic, again, you're going to abide by typical exposure. This is kind of shady to me. We are hitting roughly a middle gray area, but I'm not sure that that's how I want this to render, because after all, the skies here are still quite hot. You can see that there's a flat line in the waveform, which means that the skies are lost. Now, are we really going to get them back? I don't know. Let's try. Let's close down again. And now we're starting to get some real detail. And we still have some nice retention in the shadows. We haven't totally lost them. I think this actually captures everything. I can see it here in HDR, but it definitely lacks some of that punch that you would expect. And if you're really looking for that, if you're in an absolutely bright, sunny environment like we were just a few hours ago, this would be almost impossible. So let's go over to the display LUT again. And now you can see it's way punchier. It's got the correct contrast. It looks perfect. I guarantee you this is going to render correctly in both HDR and SDR. But of course, now we know that the exposure rules do not change. It's just a matter of your perception when you're monitoring on set. And of course, if you're abiding by photometric principles, if you're actually using middle gray, the concept of middle gray, lighting ratios, you're going to be safe no matter what.
So I kind of explained it just now when we were outside, but I truly cannot stress enough that the rules of exposure do not change with HDR. If anything, they become more important because you might think you have the right exposure when it's either much too dark or far too bright. The key thing to remember is that just because the screens can get much brighter, it doesn't mean that the image is supposed to be brighter. Proper exposure also becomes more important to fully utilize HDR as a creative tool. Though you can obviously view things like blown highlights and crushed shadows in SDR, HDR monitoring might give you a more intuitive sense of how to play with those elements in the image. It doesn't change what's actually happening, but I could see it influencing things like practical bulbs, windows, or reflections. Now, some of you who are more photographically inclined or have a traditional cinematography background might be wondering, where is 18% middle gray in HDR? Well, standards, BT2408, do document this at about 26 nits for a reference 1000 nit display, which is very low. The PQ scale, which we saw on the Atomos monitor outside, would show this at about 38%. So if you're already exposing for some log formats anyway, you're not that far off. HDR reference white or diffuse white is listed as 203 nits or 58% PQ, which gives you almost 3 stops above middle gray to white. HDR video is fascinating from an engineering perspective, but it is very complicated, and it does come with some contradictions to how we understand photography, exposure, and even human vision and perception. The real fun of HDR comes in how it's graded and viewed, but that's a whole nother set of technical considerations that come into play. If there's anything you should take away from this, it's that if you have log footage sitting around, you could simply regrade it for HDR and enjoy the benefits. Plus, you could quite literally see your footage in a whole new light. But for that, you'll have to stay tuned for part 2. So let us know in the comments below if you've played around with HDR video before and what you think about it overall. This is Doug with B&H, and I'll see you next time.